how to beat the opponent on curve by outspending them in the early game or outspending them in the late game. Welcome in, much love. Trav here going over some more advanced topics today, diving into some images, graphics, and examples from my Deck Mastery ebook. Deck Mastery ebook released this, if I want to say Thanksgiving 2015, and a lot of people have gotten to see it, which I'm really happy about. I want more people to see it, so I think it's time to just kind of dive in and pull out some lessons from it. As Ixalan spoilers are over, I'm not actively playing that much Magic until the next tournament series, although today I am going into a middle school games club in Nanakuli on the west side of Hawaii with my buddy Sean Pottinger, 808 Jr., doing a little Magic demo. Really excited about that. So, if you're watching this video today, yeah, it's not as flashy as, look at this 2-card combo, but it's going to be a whole lot more useful for you to actually build better decks in limited, constructed, play better Magic, and have a better understanding of how to win. So, this is from the whole, we're not going to go over the whole chapter, this is chapter 12, but this chapter is about planning, starting and finishing, having a starting sequence, trying to win the first 3 turns, having a finishing sequence, trying to win the last 3 turns. And whether it's planning to get ahead or planning to keep pace or planning to fall behind and catch up, you want to outspend the opponent on mana, either literally by just spending all your mana every turn hitting land drops, or kind of figuratively by making really big plays, using a sweeper that takes out 10 mana worth of cards for only 4 mana. So, also, by the way, the book itself, it looks like I have a draft. It has a bunch of graphics, more graphics of these card images in there. So I realize I may have opened the wrong one, but this is the important graphic. So basically, what are mana problems? Mana screw means you're not spending as much mana as you like. You can't unload the cards in your hand. And mana flood also means you can't spend as much mana as you like. You have all these untapped lands that aren't getting tapped for mana, right? So you think about by beating the opponent, one of the things you want to do is specifically spending comparatively greater mana usage than the opponent. If the opponent spends 10 mana and you spend 17 mana, almost all the time you're going to win. Sometimes that's not true, but most of the time you're going to win, right? So there's a couple examples of this. Like you go way under them, and you're going to be able to end the game quick. But if you go way over, you're going to lose, right? A common one is to just go slightly above them, so that you fall behind to start, but you're able to outspend them. Where they start playing 4s, you start to play 5s, and outspend them 1 mana turn until the game ends. So, let me give you an example. The red is a mana curve. Red and black are both mana curves. We're comparing 2 decks here. So, on the bottom we have mana cost by turn. So, for instance, we start at 1 on the left. And on the left, you can say number of cards in deck. So, for instance, the black deck has, 10, we'll say 10 1-drops, and the red deck has 15 1-drops. So, red has an advantage in the early game. And also we have to generalize over multiple games, because some games you're going to curve out even if you have a higher, or you're not going to curve out even if you have a lower, right? So, this is a statistical average over the long term, right? So, in the first 3 to 4 turns of the game here, the red deck is going to generally be outspending the black deck, right? But you get past the 3rd and 4th turn, and if the red deck hasn't won yet or isn't close to winning, the black deck's going to start outspending them, because the red deck tops at 4, where the black deck tops at 5. And the black deck's 5-drops are going to be more powerful than the red deck's 4-drops. And you can look at this as aggro versus mid-range. The black deck's eventually going to win. Really obvious when you look at it graphically, but no one does. So you're lucky that you're here. And we can say the purple line is the approximate turn when the mana advantage shifts, right? So even once the black deck starts to outspend the red deck, it still hasn't it's outspending by turn, but hasn't outspent overall. So for you calculus nerds here, basically the red fill minus the whatever, we're looking at integrals here. We're looking at sum of mana spent across the game. So once the purple line is reached here approximately, we can say that the black deck's going to start to run away the game. Although it's Magic, the red deck can top deck a burn spell to finish off the opponent, right? So we're gonna go for another example, but that's basically the strategy of outspending them by just a little bit, going just a little bit over. Really common, and it's also a common sideboard plan. You look at Hazaret red decks. From standard, a common thing is in the first game, trying to play really low to the ground, the opponent goes a little bit bigger, and the red deck tries to jump even a little bit bigger than that, bringing in 5 mana Glory Bringers, more 4 mana Chandras, and trimming the 1s and 2s, right? Okay, however, if you go too high on cost, then you will never catch up. So here's an example of a red deck the same red deck, but here's the same a different black deck that doesn't even start playing till turn 3, turn 3 or 4, say. It's got nothing in its deck that costs 1 or 2, and it tops out at like 9 mana. Well, this deck's not even going to catch up. We're not even going to reach a mana spent equilibrium till turn 8, turn 9, whatever. And you look at the brown bar, the game's over here, right? The game's dead. The red deck's killing on turn 4 or 5 through very little disruption because the black deck's just not doing enough, right? So that you need to know matchups and also where the metagame's at, because sometimes you can play this start on turn 3 deck and be just fine. I actually qualified for the Pro Tour with a deck that had nothing that cost less than 3 in my deck. Had played 29 lands, my Cascade Land Destruction deck, which is also featured in this book. But that's a rare example, and also it has to do with matchups. Like, you just need to be aware that if you try to go too high, someone will just go straight under you. You're dead before you even start playing Magic. There's not a whole lot you can do about it other than play a different curve. Okay. And we're going through lots of examples in here. Outspending the opponent on mana sinks, drawing more cards, making more mana. But that's the basic thing I want to... we'll go over one more example here of how to outspend the opponent on mana. And a key to this is having a plan that includes flexible mana costs. So here is this blue deck that I used to play in Standard. Used to call this Mono Blue Robots. But basically, it's at a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a really low curve deck. But if you actually look at the finishing plan, you have, I guess I didn't curve it out. Hypnotic Siren costs 7. Shore Crasher Elemental gives you a lot of things to do on 5. Living End's a better example. Living End is a clear turns 1, 2, and 3. You're falling behind. You're going to catch up on turn 3. Massive mana advantage. Undo everything they've done, put a bunch of stuff in play, generate tons of mana. That's the starting plan, right? Cycle, Living End. However, there's also this finishing plan where you just start to cast monsters. You have your 3 drops, 4 drops, 5 drops, 6 drops, topping at 7 mana. You're going to be able to outspend the opponent almost every game. And that's one of the reasons why Living End is such a great deck, is because you can outspend, you're just in position to outspend almost every deck. And given a long enough game, that results in a win for you. So you can also look at the Living End like this. You double up Monsters Carabin on 1 and on 5, right? Like, you have so much to do with your mana and so many options. So, boom, starting, finishing, connect the plans. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. If you found this particularly useful, let me know in the comments. If you want to get the whole book, I forget the price right now. It's like $7 or $15 or something. There's a link to it in the description. If not, that's okay. And I'm going to go pull some more lessons out of there. So if this is useful and you want more, then I'll be back tomorrow with some more stuff. Also going to be talking about my experiences working with the kids today. So should be pretty interesting. Also, so a lot of fun adventures coming up leading up to, in about a month now, I'm going to be in Vegas with my teammate and fellow mastermind coach Ben Friedman, preparing for GP Phoenix and Pro Tour Albuquerque, so Ixalan. It's going to be a lot of fun. I appreciate you. Look forward to hearing what you have to say, and we will speak soon.